Today I'm meeting with one of my preferred home inspectors to talk about common home inspection issues, and we're starting right now. If this is your first time visiting my channel, my name is Carrie Jonicus and I'm a realtor in Chicago's southwest suburbs. Please consider hitting the subscribe button down below and the notification bell to be notified of any new videos that I post. I post new videos every Monday and I wouldn't want you to miss out. I'm here with one of my preferred home inspectors today. We are talking about common home inspection issues. Can you first tell us a little bit about yourself and then tell us some common home inspection issues?
Sure. So I'm Joe Zolkowski with On Target Home Inspection. We've been serving Chicagoland and all the surrounding counties for about the last 8 years. And some of the most common home inspection issues that we find, I'll just kind of go down the list. So the first one is the simplest one to fix, and it's the one that kind of leads to a lot of the other ones, and that's grading and drainage. So what that means is all the measures that you would take on the outside of the house to kind of keep water away from the house. This includes like downspout extensions, how the ground is kind of shaped around the house, like is it going in towards the house or is it going away from the house. You always want water to be shed away from the house and the foundation and all like the walkways and everything, because if you don't, you're going to get what the next common issue would be, which is water issues in the basement. So what'll happen is you'll get the water that kind of goes against the house and against the foundation, and it puts pressure on the foundation, and that water eventually finds its way in through kind of the weakest spot, whether it's a crack or an opening somewhere, and then you'll get water in your basement. So that's kind of our second most common issue that we find. And a related issue that we find a lot as well is cracking in the foundation. Now there's a bunch of different kind of foundation cracks. Some are way worse than others. The ones that we find most typically are settlement cracks, which are kind of like the vertical / diagonal sort of cracks. These are usually caused by settlement, and this is usually the main point of entry where that water is going to get in. So we're seeing all these things are kind of related so far, and that's kind of how home inspection is. Like, we look at it holistically, how one thing affects another. So the next thing I would say that we find is issues with the roof. We actually get up on the roof whenever it's safe to do so, so we actually get a really good view of the shingles and also a good feel for the sheathing underneath as we're walking. But just, things happen, like, hailstorms will damage the shingles, branches will fall down and knock shingles off the roof. These are all important things to know, just because they will lead to water intrusion into the attic if they're not taken care of in a timely manner. The next thing I would say, the next common defect, is electrical issues. Electrical issues are one of those things that they're usually pretty cheap and easy to fix, usually, and they're also really important to fix. They usually translate to a safety issue if they're not done and fixed properly. This includes, missing GFCIs, which are those safety outlets you find like in the bathrooms and the kitchens by water, basically. Exposed wiring, wrong type of wiring. So these are all things that we find too, and this is throughout the house, whether it's, kitchens, bathrooms, attic, whatever. The next most common thing would be ventilation issues. Now, this isn't something that a lot of people would necessarily know a lot about unless they had specific training, but ventilation in an attic is really important. That's the airflow in the attic. That, number one, it allows the attic wood to stay dry, and it helps to prevent moisture issues like mold. And it also helps to regulate the attic temperature, so it's not going to be too hot in the summer, it's not going to be too cold in the winter. So, and what that does is it just helps the roof to last longer, right? The way that we accomplish that is just through venting, right? So you have like soffit vents along the bottom of the soffits, roof vents on top of the roof, and that allows for a proper airflow. A lot of times we'll see that those are obstructed, and we have seen that that's caused issues in the attic, like mold and frost in the winter and that kind of stuff. So yeah, these are just a few of the many, many things that we look for, but I'll say that those are probably some of the most common things that we find during an inspection.
What about ventilation in a laundry room? Do you find that when there's, gas washer dryer and a closed door, if there's not enough proper ventilation there, do you find that becomes an issue?
A dryer, typically, unless it's an electric dryer, a dryer is typically a gas-fired appliance, right? So you would want to make sure that you do have ventilation in there in terms of either like a louvered door or a vent fan or something, I mean, that would be ideal. If the room's big enough and like it's kind of got an open flow to the rest of the house, I would say it's not as big of a deal, but it's a consideration for sure. And you definitely do want to make sure that the dryer is vented to the exterior so that it can dissipate all that warm air.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today and giving us this helpful information. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
If you'd like to see some of the other videos I have done, you can click up here. If you'd like to see some of the videos that YouTube recommends for you, you can click down here. And don't forget to subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.